to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the beneficent, the merciful, master of the day of requital. Thee do we serve, and thee do we beseech for aid. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, and not the path of those upon whom wrath come down, nor of those who go astray. Ameen.
Ameen. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another Clean Glass production in the Sisterhood Connection. My name is Sister Sharita X, and tonight I would like to thank everyone for tuning in on behalf of the Sisterhood Connection. Tonight we have with us our beloved brother and co-host, Brother Courtney Muhammad, and you know our special guest today is Brother lllia Muhammad. With that being said, I'd like to bring on our brother. Brother lllia, are you there, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. I hope I'm coming in loud and clear.
Loud and clear, beloved. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Sharita.
Brother lllia, can you please lay the baseball conversation today? Sir, tell us a little bit about your book, what inspired you to write the book. Please, sir. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I certainly want to thank you, Brother Courtney, for having me on this show. Anytime we have the opportunity to discuss the majesty of what Allah revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and what he has given to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, it's always a pleasure and an honor. And as you know, this type of talk is of the highest type of conversation that we could have. I was blessed to be able to compile and compose the recent book, UFOs and the Nation of Islam, a book that I believe has been and is becoming a resource of the Nation of Islam, a resource that proves, validates, and vindicates the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the divine leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The book, UFOs and the Nation of Islam, The Source, Proof, and Reality of the Wheels, we released it on September 17th of this past year, which was just a few months ago, and it seems to be picking up a little bit of momentum thanks to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and his recent addresses on the time and what must be done, where he's really dealing with this matter. And it just does so much good to my heart when the minister expounds on this majestic subject, and to be able to teach the world, because whether we know it or not, whether the world knows it or not, when it comes to the subject of these wheel-shaped UFOs, Minister Farrakhan is the representative that the world should look to when they want the truth of this matter. And part of the reason why we composed this book is basically to prove that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said was right all along, completely right and exact. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that he met God in person, and that God in person showed him and summoned for him the reality of this huge wheel-like plane with its 1,500 smaller wheel-like planes that the world now calls UFOs. So while in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s, and some 90s, people have mocked the Nation of Islam. People called the Nation of Islam as heretical, and even said that our teaching of this wheel was mythical, and it was explained away. There was a whole body of believers, thousands of people, who left the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because they were taught somehow that this wheel was mythical and not real. But now that contemporary data proves beyond doubt that those wheel-like planes do exist just as he taught, now the world has to decide, will they stand with the man who represents the power behind those wheels? And that, in part, is what inspired me, what allowed me to compile the research compile the data to make this book available. And I'm just thankful to have a platform to be able to share with you and the believers and your listening audience the truth of what we've been able to find.
Yes, sir. Thank you, beloved. Thank you. Tonight I was online on a call, a radio show. I believe it was called the God Squad, and they were talking about the wheel, and a lot of believers was calling in, different believers were calling in, and they were actually sharing some of the experiences that they had with the wheel. Can you please tell us any information that you may have with, because we know that, and we hear it all the time, sometimes on the news or about abductions, about implants, and even people having real-life experiences, that also can bear witness to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is sharing with us in the time and what must be done, sir. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. It's been reported, every few years or so, there are statistical surveys that are put forth that reflect the number of people in America who have seen UFOs and who believe in these planes that are called UFOs. And for the most part, throughout the decades, nearly half of the American people believe in UFOs. And some of the recent stats show that around 40 million people in America have actually seen these planes. This is much of the information that does not get as much media attention as I think it should. And sometimes when people have reported these experiences, not only of seeing them, but encountering these wheels and the people, not aliens, but the people who pilot crafts. There have been people who have been abducted. There have been people who've had experiences, whether telepathically or otherwise, as it relates to these wheels. Minister Farrakhan shared some information on last night and the previous episodes of The Time and What Must Be Done, where many military officials have come forth and admitted that these wheels have been seen over their most sophisticated nuclear weapons projects. These wheels, all over America's most secretive military installations, these wheels have interfered with and, in some cases, destabilized their nuclear weaponry. And some of the former military officials felt so compelled to come forth that they've even come forth and shared these experiences. Now, if these wheels have the power to shut down America's most sophisticated military technology from a distance, that lets us know that these wheels have the power to shut America down altogether. So the question is, how, again, will America and the world powers respond to this power, which happens to be represented by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? So America and the world powers have a drastic decision that they're going to have to make, and they're going to have to make that decision quite soon. But needless to say, people have had experiences and continue to have experiences because these planes are real. Yes, sir.
And even the President Carter, can you please tell us some other officials or, government representatives who have also reported that they've seen it as well?
Oh, yes. That list might take too long. We might take up the whole show if we were trying to go over some of those. But needless to say, there have been numerous presidents, government officials, high-ranking government officials who have had experiences with these wheels and cited these wheels. And it's rather interesting because in the scriptures, we see how God has often revealed his power and signs of his power to his enemies, to the people in power. We saw how God revealed his power to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh, despite seeing the arm and power of God, still continued with his mischief activity. We saw how Herod was able to see the signs of God in the heavens. And he knew what those signs represented. It represented that a Savior was on the scene. But Herod and his council were so wicked that despite seeing the clear signs and power of God, they sought to kill and destroy the one who represents that power. Well, many of our presidents, from Reagan and Carter and Truman and Eisenhower and Gerald Ford and so many congressmen, Dennis Kucinich, and the list goes on and on and on. These are people who have risen to positions of power and have also seen and witnessed the power of these wheels. But many of them have responded much like the prophecy said that they would respond. Many of them are like Pharaoh, who, despite seeing the powers of God, continued in their mischievous ways. President Ronald Reagan, when he was governor of California, he saw these wheels while he was on an aircraft. He said he saw this light, and it shot up straight up into the heavens with tremendous speed. President Jimmy Carter, when he was governor of Georgia, he and some of his colleagues were out and saw that gigantic wheel. He said that it was as big as the moon. He even said that when he became president, he would make all UFO-related information available. But we know that there's a shadow government amidst the American government that doesn't allow that type of activity to take place. So President Carter was never able to fulfill what he sought out to do. But again, many of them, like Reagan, instead of responding to God's representative who was on scene favorably, Reagan set up the Strategic Defense Initiative, better known as Star Wars, because he was going to try to go to war power of these wheels that he knew existed. So Minister Farrakhan in his broadcast on last night shared with us some of that power, the dreadful power of that wheel. And if these leaders were wise, they would tap out, as he said. They would bow down and submit that a real power is on scene today. Because the power of these wheels, that they have been shutting down nuclear weaponry and just showing tidbits of what Allah has to offer, that's a sign, that's giving America a chance to take heed to the truth, to take heed to that power of those wheels, which is the power of Master Farad Muhammad, the power that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad represented, and the power that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is constantly representing to us. America has a slight chance, but it's all contingent on how they respond to that man in our midst, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother, I have one more question, and I want to open up the line for our Brother Courtney, and then we can open up the line for the callers. Brother, you talked about a savior. And some of our people don't think that we need to be saved, and also, why is all this going to happen? The wheel and the power that's behind the wheel. Why is America being judged? Can you please go into that, and then we can actually turn it over to Brother Courtney, and then we'll bring on some questions for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Some people don't know that we need to be saved. Just like there were some slaves who didn't know that they were slaves. So when a person has been so enslaved and so mentally enslaved, he or she does not even know that they need to be liberated. They've been so accustomed to their condition that they think it's a part of life. Well, we are not too far from that. Here we are in 2014, still wearing the names of our former slave masters, still living the treacherous lifestyle of our former slave masters, still living a life filled with death. So many of us, unfortunately, don't even know that we need to be saved. And then those of us who do realize that something needs to take place have no clue as to how that would be done. How can black people in America be freed from the most powerful entity and government in the world? With all our little pop guns that we have that we're killing each other with, that's no match for the weaponry that the U.S. Armed Forces has. You're dealing with a nation that takes down other nations almost instantaneously. So what power? There's no conventional means that black people could be saved from a treacherous enemy like this unless there was the intervention of a supreme being. And this is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan represent to us. There's no way, with all of our scholarship and with all of our so-called leaders that are begging for justice and whatnot, there's no way, no logical way that we can obtain justice with a powerful enemy like the American government unless it is proven that there is a power and an intelligence far beyond what America has. And that's where these wheels come in at. That's where this judgment comes in at. You see, history and prophecy has shown us that whenever a country or a nation has done so much wrong, and we haven't seen any do as much wrong as America has, there's always been some type of judgment where that nation had to answer for the wrongs that it has done. We cannot find historically any wrong that has been more severe, more widespread, more heinous than what we call the transatlantic slavery.
Yes, sir.
And the death blow of that heinous history took place right here in America, whereas we are still feeling the effects of slavery. Who's going to answer for that? Who's going to hold America and her government accountable for that? There's no other nation on this earth that can take up for us and make America respond for the evils that she's done and continues to do to the darker people. So if you don't recognize that there is a higher power that can hold America accountable, then you might as well just give up too. But we are thankful that Allah has raised the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan as warners and as messengers to represent that there is a power stronger than America. There is a wisdom and intelligence that's wiser than America. And we are fortunate and we should be thankful that that power is on our side. But now we have to recognize it and stand with those who represent that power for us.
Absolutely. Praise be to Allah. Thank you. Allahu Akbar. Brother Courtney, your line is open, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, ma'am. Alaikum salam. Brother lllia, I happened to speak with you after, many don't know, but after you left the seat of being with the Minister Farrakhan, that he called you to Chicago. Is that right, brother?
Yes, sir, or at least to Michigan, the farm, by way of Chicago. Sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And yes, sir. And what, unbeknownst to you, after you arrived home back in Tennessee, I had shared with you, knowing that you were there. Not too many of those in the Nation of Islam knew that you were there with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan discussing your book. And before I go into another question before this one, what was Minister Farrakhan's response to you and the book UFOs in the Nation of Islam?
Yes, sir. Now, of course, being that was a private meeting, there's only so much that I'm going to go into. But,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Needless to say, I was so blessed to be in the presence of Allah's voice, Minister Farrakhan. And those of you know that any time we are blessed to even behold him, it's an experience in and of itself. And as much as I want to consider myself a logical, rational thinker, sometimes I cannot explain the joy and elation that just comes over me just from beholding and looking at this beautiful man. Yes. And to be able to be in such a close vicinity with him, you know, just, oh, my God. You know, I put it this way. I still have not come down from that high.
Yes.
I haven't come down from that high. And I don't expect to come down anytime soon.
Yes.
Fortunately, the minister expressed tremendous joy for the research that I was blessed to compose in this. He told me with tears in his eyes, he told me that the research was stellar and that he was so proud of the way that I was blessed to represent him and our Father and the God of this magnificent phenomenon. And, you know, he said some things that just stuck with me. He told me, again, this is with tears in his eyes, which, of course, brought tears to my eyes. And to be honest with you, I ain't going to lie, I was boo-hooing like a little baby. I was boo-hooing, y'all. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Don't worry. You would, too, if you was in my position. You'd be crying, too.
Oh, yes,
sir. He said, brother, Allah put it on your heart to study this. And as he said that, there were some things going through my mind because you know how sometimes we are blessed to do things and we know individually that Allah is blessing us and inspiring us to do it, even though we might not want to tell anybody because, you know, we don't want anybody to think we're spooky or crazy. But I noticed that throughout the year-long toiling with research, it was as though Allah was putting information in my hands, putting information almost like he was handing me information to use that I could not have obtained through conventional research. So these were little motivating factors that kind of let me know that I was doing the right thing and to encourage me to keep on doing what I was doing. And so when he told me that Allah put it on my heart to study this, it crystallized. I understood it, and I believe it, you know. And not to brag, but sometimes I'll go back and I'll read over portions of the book, and I say, my God, did I write this? You know? So I thank Allah. I just thank Allah so much for putting it on my heart to study this and to share this, and hopefully it'll be a good resource for those of us who are already believe in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the divine leadership of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. But perhaps even more importantly, this could be a tool to convince those who do not believe. I believe that the data that we have provided, the arguments, the rational data and intelligence that we've been able to put forth in this book and the analysis that goes with it, I don't believe that any reasonable thinker can deny the truth after reading what we've been blessed to put together. Even the staunchest skeptics, see, after reading this book, you really will have no excuse now. There will be no excuse not to stand with the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, regardless to what aspect or station in life we may be in, whether it's religious, whether it's scientific, whether it's secular and academic. You know, I didn't give anybody any way out.
You know,
you're going to bear witness to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If you are a reasonable thinker and you can reason with the truth, there's no way I can see any intelligent person denying what we've been able to put together.
Brother lllia, I bear witness to you, brother, because before you went to meet with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you had said to me very humbly that, brother, I don't, you know, the other books that I had co-authored with Brother Demetric and other projects that I've worked on, I've never said that Allah guided me. But you said to me, brother, I'm not being spooky or anything like that, but I have to say to you, brother, that I feel like Allah guided me in this. And then when I heard from you what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said himself, it bore witness to exactly what you were feeling before you even met with the minister. And I would like to say this as I started, unbeknownst to you, I knew you were in the vicinity of Chicago or Michigan, and it just happened that the time that you were there, which was a little over a month ago, I believe, is when a rash of tornadoes broke out in Illinois and around Chicago. And as you were flying out, you and Brother Dimitri, on your way back to Tennessee, I believe, I was called by my mother, and she was frantic. She was telling me how tornadoes had broken out all over the United States, and hurry up, Courtney, what's going on? You know, and I get there, and it was kind of interesting because the 77 tornadoes that had touched down, they had made a path across the Midwest from Illinois down to Tennessee. Now, this is making,
wow.
I had called you up and said, what the heck are you doing, brother? But, I've been passing out your book, and especially into the prisons, and one of our brothers who has been standing up for the nation for over 30 years, brother, and he read the entire book, and he came back to report, and he said, brother, our nation's book on the identified flying objects, he said this, the book is a masterpiece, and to those who read or have the heart to read our nation's book, speaking of your book, brother, it should end this world for them, and their minds will be placed in the hereafter, brother. What does this book and this revelation and what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is sharing with us, especially in these last few broadcasts, have to do with the hereafter, brother?
Wow. You know that we're taught that what is on the wheel is the guidance that takes us all up into the hereafter. You know, it represents a new heaven and a new earth. What is on that wheel basically is heaven in the sky, literally, that's above our heads. New vegetation, new life, new creatures even, new food. There's no disease, no crime or anything of that sort. And that's almost unfathomable for us who live in this world that is characterized by death and destruction and evil and malnutrition and just death and just frivolity all around us. So it becomes almost unbelievable to know that there is a tangible reality that has no impurities. The book of Revelation speaks of this New Jerusalem and as being like the city of God, and all of just the beauty thereof. And this is a realistic reality that we have before us. So what's on that wheel is what will take us into this hereafter. And we just hope that we can be a part of that number so that what is on the wheel will come down on this earth. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is up there on the wheel.
That's right.
Praise be to Allah.
And you know, with the minister, since the minister's first broadcast on the wheel some 2 weeks ago or so, there has been a tremendous increase in sightings, bringing in the new year of 2014, which was after his first broadcast. And this has become somewhat commonplace whenever the minister deals publicly with the wheel. Going back to the announcement and just so many occasions where the minister has spoken of these wheels, and it's like his presence just calls on them as a dare to America almost. He'll make a statement about the wheels on a public forum, which is only followed by sightings, mass sightings all throughout the country. And don't you know that ufologists and researchers are already saying that this is likely going to be a year of mass sightings? And the reason they are saying that is because the new year, right after the minister's first broadcast on the wheel, this new year brought in tremendous sightings all across up and down California, all in Virginia, all in Florida, all in New York, all in these little remote towns. Right here in the Memphis area where I live, there have been sightings captured, not only by people who already believed, but by people who had no idea what they were seeing. So I am totally convinced, I am totally convinced that just as the minister said many, many years ago, it may have been the 1980s or may have been 1990, he said that the wheels follow me wherever I go. You can take it or let it alone. Well, I'm one of those. I want to take it. I believe it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Brother, you talked about as you were writing the book or gathering the information for the book, how you believe that Allah was guiding you. And I tell you what came to my mind. When we pray, we say, oh, Allah, guide me on the right path, or guide me on the straight path. You know what I mean? And so a lot of times we pray for guidance, and Allah does guide. Allahu Akbar. I think, it's just real, and that's my point. It is so real that when we ask Allah to guide us and we're sincere, Allah will guide you, So I want to just that's what came to my mind, beloved. Yes, sir. Brother Courtney?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, brother, what was inspired in me also, brother, is that who's represented here, Master Farad Muhammad, God in person. You make it even more clear that he represents the perfection of man, and just the way that this subject is coming out. And I heard another one of your broadcasts, and one of the main issues or points that were made is, why has the Nation of Islam been left out of talks from the ufologists, from those who are speaking about UFOs? Why is it that we're left out, brother?
Yeah. Oh, that's the question right there. The reason, in my judgment, that the Nation of Islam is deliberately left out of UFO-related discussions and topics and forums is because to prove that these wheels exist is to prove that Elijah Muhammad met God in person. To prove that these wheels exist is to prove that Louis Farrakhan is not crazy and is the representative of those wheels. So it is the enemy's desire, knowing that the people will start to see these wheels more and more and more, the enemy has put forth what I call his preemptive propaganda. That is his methods and strategies of deceiving the public about these wheels before the public ever even sees them for themselves. He has conditioned and commandeered the people into believing that these wheels are of extraterrestrial origin. They're from outer space, some unknown, fictitious ET alien that we see in the movies. So if we look at it, of all the UFO-related movies, and there have been hundreds of them, hardly any of them reflect the truth. Elijah Muhammad was the first to bring this reality to the modern world. You see? And we have bona fide documented proof that there was no investigations, no mass sightings, no public concerns about these wheels until after it was brought and revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for our salvation. And we have challenged the scholars of the world. And we still challenge the scholars of the world. And this is why I'm thankful that we were able to put forth this book, because this book is not just for the rank and file person. It's for them. But we want to challenge the scientists, the academics, the religious, theological scholars. We want to challenge the ufologists, the UFO researchers, to see if they can contest with the fact that Elijah Muhammad was shown these realities by what he called the Supreme Being. They don't even want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. And this is nothing, this is not like a religious debate where it's based on interpretations of symbols or scriptures. No, this is a tangible debate. We're dealing with a tangible reality that exists right here. And we're willing to put forth and prove our case before the world.
Wow, brother. All I can say is get the book. Get the book, have it in your arsenal. See what Brother lllia has to say about what the Nation of Islam is revealing, dealing with UFOs. Brother, you made a point in the book, which I have to say, brother, was just on point. And that was the battle over L.A., in which it just never dawned on me about why they picked up the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was looking at the picture of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad handcuffed to, I believe it was an FBI agent, and I believe it was May of 42, and they said charges of evading the draft. And but there was nothing else there. But in the writing, it said that there was no judge, there was no jury, there was no case. He was just locked up for 5 years without being charged for anything. But what is it that you showed us in your book, brother, about why he was? Could you go into that, brother?
Yes, sir. And for those who may not be familiar, the Battle of Los Angeles that we're talking about is not the fictitious movie that came out a few years ago. The Battle of Los Angeles refers to a realistic part of history that occurred on February 25th, 1942. And this particular encounter is understood to be perhaps the first encounter between the wheel and the American military. The wheel, this huge wheel, was spotted off the coast of Los Angeles along with a few smaller wheel-like planes, and considering America's paranoia, so to speak, because America was engaged with war against Japan around that time, America, with some of her most sophisticated artillery at the time, fired over 1,400 rounds of heavy artillery at this wheel. This wheel remained stationary amidst the clouds just above Los Angeles. And as the American Army was firing these rounds and rounds of heavy artillery at the wheel did not budge. Those bullets, I guess you could call them missiles and rounds that were shot at it then, just budged off of it. Didn't do anything whatsoever to the wheel. And remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about the steel that the wheel is composed of, the finest steel. It's almost impenetrable. It can create its own atmosphere. So clearly, what was shown in the Battle of Los Angeles was the wheel showing its supreme power above anything that they had at the time. And while they were shooting at this large wheel, the smaller ones were dancing around, dodging those missiles or artillery that was being shot at it. The next day, it was all in the news. Nobody to this day claims they know what it was, but it was clearly what they call a UFO, a large round UFO that was in the clouds along with smaller ones. But needless to say, this brought tremendous concern to the American government.
Well, Brother lllia, just want to stop you right there. You said the next day, and just want to point out that the next day was February 26th, 1942, which was the day that we celebrate our Savior's Day in Chicago. Go ahead, brother.
Excellent observation. Excellent. And the government was alarmed. They were trying to find out what was this? What was this spectacular craft that had never been seen before? It was too sophisticated, too advanced. they wondered, was it the Japanese? But the Japanese didn't have anything of that quality. So in their investigations, the FBI, from the President Roosevelt on down, their investigations led to the only person talking about these wheel-like planes and that huge wheel-like plane, which happened to be that black man with only a 3rd or 4th grade education, Elijah Muhammad. And to prove it, when they arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which they had no valid grounds of doing anyway, the FBI, upon arresting Elijah Muhammad, confiscated his drawings and illustrations that he had regarding the wheel. They raided his home, they raided the mosque, and took the blackboard that had drawings of the wheel on it. And then when they interrogated the messenger, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they questioned him about the wheel. Now, why would you question a man about the wheel if you're arresting him for evading draft or something like that? What the hell does that have to do with the wheel? So we know that their concern was, what do you know about this plane? And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, our bold leader, told him quite frankly, yes, that I know what that wheel is, and you can't catch it. You can't do nothing with that power. And the white man admitted to him that they saw it. They admitted to him that they saw it. And again, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad assured them that they could never get to it. But out of their wickedness and evilness, they locked the messenger of God up for about 5 years for no reason whatsoever other than telling the truth and being the representative of that divine wheel-like object.
Yes.
So the American government knows, it's clear. They know that the wheel exists. They know that the 1,500 baby planes and wheels exist, and they know who represents these wheels. This is when the cover-up really started after the Battle of Los Angeles. After they arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they wanted to make sure that they would never be as embarrassed as they were again. So that's when the cover-up began. That's when the preemptive propaganda began. And if you'll notice, just about all of your UFO-related movies came after that time. Mostly in the 50s is when your first flying saucer-type movies mostly began popping up. Very interesting.
Yes, very much so. Brother Courtney, I would like to now open up the line for some callers. Okay?
Sure.
Family, 310-740. Your line is open. Assalamu alaikum. 310-740. Your line is open. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you for calling in. 954-661. Your line is open. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. As usual, every time that I am blessed with the ability to tune in, I'm always full by the time I get off of the line, and I want to thank you again. I really thank Allah for the both of you brothers and for you, Sister Sharita, because it is just wonderful for these type of things to be made available for the believers as an ammunition against this war on in ignorance. The words really escape me, but the question that I have, and I noticed every time the minister finishes teaching us about these devices, these beautiful machines in the sky, this human-built planet, the devil poses the opposition, and shows continue to air about these machines coming from extraterrestrial origin. And the other thing I notice is that they always pose it as the pilots and the origin is to our destruction. So my question is, how do I explain to people, because I'm constantly in the street and I'm telling people more and more that these are human-built devices, that the pilots are actually our brothers, from here on the earth with us, and that they're not little gray men, they're not, little green men from somewhere on the other side of the moon, but they're constantly saying, the conspiracy theorists and these other things. How do you deal with, when people have been just force-fed foolishness for so long? How do you get them to understand that this is, this is a reality? These are not some, this is not the hoax that they're being taught, but that it's really something that's being kept from them.
Yes.
Okay. In my case, one of the first things I direct people to do is to please listen to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. If you don't do anything else, please listen. Not just listen, but think and observe. And I would pose simple questions like this. Is it difficult to believe that human beings can make planes that can fly in the sky? I don't think there's a person on this earth of a rational mind who would deny that human beings can make planes that can fly in the sky. And if they can accept that reality, they should have no problem being able to accept the fact that other human beings can develop other planes that can fly in the sky. You see, it is more foolish and fictitious to believe that an alien that we know nothing about would build these crafts and visit Earth. We don't know what type of interest they would have in human affairs. That's spooky. But it is nothing but logical and practical to accept the fact that people can build planes that can fly in the sky. We would be a fool not to believe that, you see. So what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad represents for us and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, they don't represent no little green men. They represent people who build planes that can fly in the sky. Now, if there's anybody that can disagree with that and think that sounds foolish or conspiracy-like, then I don't think they're even worthy to be on this call.
That's right. That's right. Praise Allah. Brother Elliot, as you were speaking, I thought about this, think a lot. A lot of times we just don't think much of ourselves. You know what I mean? We've been made not to think that we have brothers and sisters that can create something greater than what this world has produced. You know what I mean? And so we just don't think much of ourselves. Like we have the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who really is introducing us, let me calm myself down, but really who is introducing us to a new mind, a new life, a new, you know what I mean? This like supreme wisdom, really. And so we don't accept that because we just don't believe that we're smart like that, or, yes, sir, can you please speak to that? And then, excuse me for my passion, but this is some serious stuff, and that right there proves that we need our brains to be washed from what was done to us, from the filth and whatever else was put on us in our whole time here, you know what I mean, or under in servitude. But anyway, again, let me calm myself down. Brother Elliot, yes, sir, praise the line. Then I want to open the line up for some more callers. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I was just thinking that, at one time the light bulb was a big deal, The light bulb was a big... At the same time we were making a big deal over the light bulb, the sun, 93 million miles away, 850,000 miles in diameter, 14,072 degrees, was still up there, showing a superior intelligence, So what Brother Elliot is saying is that we're just not acquainted with man at that level, and this is what this wheel is here to do.
Yes.
There you go. Brother Elliot, would you like to expound on or share some more information on that, sir, before we go into the next callers?
Well, quite simply, if we look at all of the cases, the credible cases of UFO encounters, especially the military cases and things like that come to mind, all of these UFO-related cases show some type of interest in human affairs. They're shutting down nuclear warheads. What would a green man from somebody else care about that? You see? And again, another reason why the enemy wants us to believe that these are of extraterrestrial origin is because little green men cannot hold America accountable for the evils that she has done and continues to do to our people. But a black man who represents this wisdom can. So it is their job, it is their intention to deceive the people to believe that these, not only that these planes are of extraterrestrial origin, but would even have the people believe that these wheels are demonic or are antagonistic. They're against us in some kind of way. You see, the enemy is already feeding the people this type of madness. So when the people see the wheels, they'll likely believe that these wheels are, some type of enemy to us. But this is why, again, it's so important that we direct people to the man who represents those wheels and represents them properly, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And family, please, press number 1. We want to hear from you. If you would like to come into the queue, and then you can press number 1 and we'll bring you in. Thank you. I'm going to try to open some lines for some other callers now. And let's see, 716-201. Your line is open. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Brother Courtney, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
It's Brother William from Buffalo. How are you, sir?
Fine, sir.
To your guest, I have a question as it relates to the Battle of L.A. that took place in 1942. Could you highlight some research that I was looking into, that the government at that time started to build what they called the DUMBs, D-U-M-B-S, Deep Underground Military, to prepare for shockwaves against the bombs in the wheels. How true is that, and do you have any knowledge of that subject?
I have heard, thank you, too. Excellent. I have heard much about that. I don't elaborate, too much on it in the book, but it makes all the sense in the world, because we know that the America's military has attempted to build underground bunkers and layers for her military projects, and as means, I guess, what they would consider to be some type of safeguard against these wheels. Of course, it's not going to help. We know what we've been taught of the capabilities of the wheels and how they will drill a hole down so far into the earth that will blow up and release all kind of gases. I mean, what they have tried to plan to do to protect themselves from the wheel just won't work anyway. I was listening to one of the reports by Lieutenant Robert Salas, who was a former military, I think it was the Air Force or Armed Forces, who was one of the people that came forth and talked about their experience with the wheel. He worked on one of those nuclear missile sites. And back in the late 60s, I think it was 67, it may have been, he was in one of those underground bunkers when he got the call that there was a wheel, a UFO, above their secret station. And he came up and he saw the UFO, and not only that, but it shut down the nuclear warheads that they were trying to do. It shut down their whole facility. So we know that there are some attempts to build underground, and they have built underground bunkers or dooms, whatever you want to call them, but it won't help. It won't save them against the power of these wheels. Can assure you that. Thanks for your observation and research too, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in too, sir. Again, family, the lines are lit up. Please press number 1, and we'll bring you in on the queue. Okay, I'm going to open up the call for 310-740. Your line is open. Assalamu alaikum.
Whenever you get time.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you?
How are you, beloved? Doing well,
I'm
thank
doing
Allah,
fine. Praise be to Allah. I was listening to the show, and I'm sorry I did not hear the brother's name who wrote the book. What's your name?
My name is lllia Rashad Muhammad, dear sister.
Brother lllia Rashad Muhammad. Yes, sir.
Yes.
I am so happy that you wrote this book. The one question that intrigued me, not related to something that we spoke about today, but it was something that I saw when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did a plenary session and had the leaders to come to explain their version of the UFOs. And the one thing that intrigued me was the something that was in someone's skin.
The implant.
And they were trying to track what was in their skin, and they were just at awe that it was in there, and every time they would move to one area, it would move to another area. And it was just amazing. So I just wanted to know, because I haven't read your book, did you talk about anything like that in your book?
We do make mention of some of that because, remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described those who control these wheels as scientists and angels. They are angels and scientists. And the fact that they are scientists shows that they are human beings but of a much higher intelligence. So when we see how some of the abductees it's been found that they have had these implants in them. And we give credit to people like Dr. Robert Lear, who was one of those researchers and physicians who have examined those who've been abducted. And I think it's over, I think he's done these tests on well over a dozen different people. It may be close to 20 when they found these implants. And as they examined the composition of these microscopic implants, they found that they don't seem to be of any composition known by, the scientists of this world and the behaviors and what it is. And they believe in their hypotheses that what this represents something that could be of benefit of like a whole new world. What could possibly be a cure and that could change the way we live and things like that. So I credit people like Dr. Lear because when we're dealing with this subject, we too have to take a scientific approach. We can't look at this with the Negro mindset. We can't look at this and approach this subject as spooky-type thinkers. We have to look at the rational, logical ramification of the fact that these wheels do exist and how it relates to those of us and the time and what must be done.
Thank you, sir. Sister Sharita, am I able to ask one more question?
Absolutely, beloved. Yes.
Oh, praise be to Allah. There was another statement that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned one day. He said, on the wheel, for whatever ailment that is on earth, they have the cure for it already on the wheel. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know, had you heard him mention something like that? And the last question that I wanted to know is the brother Courtney said that you were guided in writing the book about the wheel. Can you explain your physical feeling of being guided to writing the book and how you felt and what persuaded you to continue with this work? Because some people, like you say, we shouldn't be afraid of the wheel, but some people like, okay, this is some real mystical stuff, so I don't know how far I should go with this, or, this may be a crackpot, or, some crazy stuff. Right. So I just wanted you to put it down on earth so I can understand, and some other people who are listening could, better understand, because, Allah is guiding a lot of us to help each other into different aspects of this teaching. So I just wanted to hear from you, how you have been blessed.
Thank you. Excellent. Certainly thank you for that question. Again, I did feel as though I had been guided to do this, and I don't say that in a spooky way, like how some people say, the Lord talked to me the other night and one day, and no, nothing like that. This is in a very practical way. Sometimes there are motivating factors that causes one to do certain things, and because of the overwhelming misunderstanding of this aspect of the teaching, and because of the mockery, the misunderstanding and mockery about this aspect of the teaching, I felt compelled to explore it a little deeper, and I felt compelled to show the majesty of what Allah revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the more we look into this subject, this is the least spooky subject we can get into. You see? There is nothing more practical than the fact that God would prove his presence by making a tangible plane that can be seen, that has been seen, and continues to be seen by millions. Let me say that again. Not thousands, by millions across this earth. So now that contemporary data shows and proves that these planes exist, sightings constantly taking place, all that does is prove that Elijah Muhammad was right all along. So now, this is the challenge for religious folk. This is the challenge for scientists and academics. Now you're going to have to try to disprove that Elijah Muhammad was wrong, and that you just cannot do. So the subject that used to seem like it was the most mystical aspect of what we believe has proven itself to be the most logical, rational, and tangible aspect of what we believe. And just as I said earlier, it should not be difficult to believe that human beings can make planes that can fly in the sky. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that these wheels are made by human beings on this earth, and it's a plane that can fly in the sky. So if you don't believe that God or human beings can make planes that can fly in the sky, then I'm going to ask you, who's the real crackpot?
Good. Yes, sir. One of the things that just came to my mind, Brother Elias, I was reading, and again, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the book in front of me, but I'm sure you could help me out. Praise Allah. What the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is saying in the mother plane, the biggest thing that's holding us up is our own people, the so-called Negro, and just not, just in the way that we think, you know what I mean, that we are so caught up. Now, this is something that came to my mind, where we believe that God is a spook, he's in the sky, you know what I mean, and that he's not physical, but in the Bible it says that he walked with Enoch, and we'll believe. People can tell us one thing, but we can read something and still won't believe it. So with that being said, that's kind of like, how does that relate to it?
Again, just the practical aspect of this thing. Now, remember those stats that I quoted earlier. Some of these stats show that 40 million people in America have seen these crafts. Think about that. That's 40 million people just in America alone. In fact, these are 40 million who've reported it now. We're not even considering those who have never reported anything. But 40 million people in America who have reported seeing these planes. Don't you know that's more people who have seen these things in America than people who reside in the state of Mississippi? The state of Tennessee only has a little less than 7 million people. There are more people in America who have seen the wheels than people who live in the state of Tennessee. Now, if we want to say these planes don't exist, that would be as stupid as saying that the state of Tennessee doesn't exist. You see, the numbers don't add up. So we can look at this in a mathematical, logical, practical sense. And again, it leaves no reason, it leaves no more excuses for us to doubt what the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is giving to us.
Right. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, brother. I want to open the line now just for a few more callers. We're going to open the line for 813-410. Your line is open. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. Walaikum assalam. Beloved brother, you have a very interesting topic that you bring before the listening audience. And I have a question. I don't know if it's a question unlike any question that you've received tonight. But according to our children, the intelligence of our children today, with their ability to know computer gadgets, anything that has something to do with the internet, their easy ability to adapt to that information out the teaching. Would this have anything to do with the transference of information telepathically from the wheel to our beloved children who will be the leaders of tomorrow?
Excellent question. And I do believe there's something to that, dear brother. The scriptures talk about how the book and the wisdom of the books would be sealed unto a time when knowledge would increase and people would be traveling to and fro. That's in the book of Daniel. And we believe that this is that day and time when the knowledge of what God revealed is being exposed thanks to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. But it is a day and time characterized by the high level of transfer of information with internet and the digital age. And our children, as the brother said, are just picking up on this with nobody there to teach them, nobody there to try to guide them through conventional means. And what it shows is that our people are God. Yeah. Our babies are God in the making. And they are doing things on an exponential level that we probably still can't do. And I believe that Allah is setting conditions, pairing our children, our people, and the world to accept the reality of who and what God is, that God is a man. So there's a whole lot to that, dear brother, and I do believe there's some significance to this high transfer of information, the technical gadget type of age that we live in. Because remember, the wheel is a masterpiece of mechanics. So now, in a day and time like this, it should not be as difficult to accept the fact that God could make a machine that travels in the sky with such advanced technology. Mm-hmm. It probably would not have been as believable in the 30s or the 40s or the 50s. Mm-hmm. Imagine, people didn't even have cell phones in the 50s and 60s. So it would have been difficult to tell people that an iPhone would exist. If you're looking in the 30s, that would have seemed crazy as I don't know what. If you told somebody about the iPhone and what an iPhone could do, people would look at you like, man, get out of my face with that. So we see that as the intelligence, as technology advances, it sets the conditions whereas the people would not find it as difficult to accept this tangible reality of the wheel before them in the sky. So I believe Allah is setting the conditions for them, for us and the world to recognize the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and the truth that he represents.
Yes.
All praise be to Allah. One more question, sister.
Oh, yes, sir.
Once again, brother, my name is Brother Jalil. Sorry I didn't properly introduce myself. I'm Brother Jalil. I represent the BYC here in Tampa, the organization that's building the community in representation of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and him telling us to go out and do things for our community. I asked the question also, with the technology our government is giving to us, trickling it out to us, bringing out a new phone every 6 months, is this information that they have received from the wheel, and they have spookily put it into the minds of the people by their television that aliens are here. Is this same information that they received by actually capturing one of our fallen vessels, beloved brother?
Thank you so much. And I want to deal with this too. Now, I do believe, and it is plausible to accept the fact that much of the rise of technology is the result of reverse engineering, meaning that the whites and people in power and government have observed the wisdom, the movement of these wheels, and have attempted to model their technology after it. Now, the part that we have to be careful of is the enemy does lie. And so when we get and start thinking that one of these wheels somehow crashed, oh, no. Remember, these wheels, according to white folks now, these wheels are millions of years ahead of anything that this world has. So it would be foolish to believe that one of these wheels, with all of its supreme technology, would somehow crash. You know what I mean? However, it is not difficult to believe that Allah, in His mercy, would offer them some of His technology to see how they will act with it. This idea is congruent with what the Holy Quran teaches. Allah tells us in the Holy Quran that the devil, Shaitan, would literally try to listen in on Allah's exalted assembly. Think about that. And how they would not be able to listen in on Allah's exalted assembly, but Allah would allow them to sneak a peek or snatch away a little something, so to speak, as the Holy Quran puts it. So it's like Allah will literally give them something, you know, He's literally going to give the devil something that the devil can marvel over. But Allah also promises that after the devil obtains this, whatever Allah gives him, that the devil would be pursued by a piercing flame. Yes, brother. You know the book. And so if we look at it, ever since so-called, whatever they say, Roswell or whatever happened, because most of it is shrouded in mystery, and we know white folks do lie. But whatever happened or whatever they've been blessed to get, they've kept it above top secret, and they've used their study of it to enhance their own technology. The question is, have they been using it for good, or are they using it for evil? You see? So it's literally like a gift that Allah would give them to see how they will act. But they would still be pursued by this blazing flame or this piercing brightness. In Arabic, in the Quran, it is called Shihab Mubin, which is a brightly shining flame. And if we look at the characteristics of these wheels that have been shutting down these nuclear arsenals, they have been these shining, luminous, lit, showing their lights, you see? A brightly shining flame that's been pursuing and watching and monitoring the enemy and his military nuclear installations ever since. So they know that there's a power above them. But, you know, just like Pharaoh, just like Herod, just like some of the prophecies indicate, these people in their arrogance, in their foolishness, may actually think that they can contend with God. And that represents the biggest mistake they can possibly make. Brother, I thank you so much for asking that question. You know, we go into it much deeper in the book now. So I was really encouraged in the book. So that's just to give you a little, I guess, teaser as to what we talk about.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Excellent
Brother,
question.
can you please, yes, sir, can you please give out your website address or information so that our listeners can get the book, sir? Thank you.
Sure. Again, the name of the book is UFOs and the Nation of Islam, The Source, Proof, and Reality of the Wheels. Again, that's UFOs and the Nation of Islam, The Source, Proof, and Reality of the Wheels. You can obtain the book online through our website. That website is nationbrothers.com. Just that simple. It's spelled just like it sounds, nationbrothers.com. The book, we use the Amazon format, so ordering the book should be pretty easy, actually.
Yes.
So hopefully you all will be kind enough to support. And after obtaining the book, for those who have received the book already, feel free to leave your feedback on our Amazon book page, too. We have a lot we want to offer, so make sure you check out the book. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, family. Please support the book. Brother, the boards are lit up. I'm going to open up the line for one more caller, and then we're going to bring in our brother Courtney back. Excuse me, two more callers, and then we'll bring Brother Courtney back into the conversation. Thank you, sir. 301-706. Your line is open. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, beloved?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm well, thank Allah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. This is Sister Sharita. I'm Sister Sharita's daughter.
Yes, you are.
And I have a few questions. I don't know if you have time for all of them.
Okay. And can we get in 2 questions, beloved? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
That's fine.
Okay. So my first question is, about the scientists on the wheel, and the minister talks about their ability to listen on our thoughts. And can you please explain the importance of our thoughts and the time that we're living in?
What was the last part you said, the importance of their thoughts, and what else?
The importance of our thoughts and the time that we're living in.
Oh, yes. Thank you. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan has taught and mentioned the tremendous power and intelligence of those who control these planes. These are the scientists, sometimes called the angels, but some of their advanced abilities involve the ability to tune in. That refers to their ability to literally read and pick up on the thoughts of people. They have the technology, which is actually an ancient technology. We, in this day and time, have just become so removed from our true nature and our true mind that we don't manifest that technology as often as we actually could. But needless to say, these scientists can pick up on the thoughts of people. Not only can they tune in to the thoughts of people, but they can literally, in some cases, manipulate the thoughts of people. They have the technology of being able to control certain things, devices, and people in a remote fashion. Most of those, practically all of those military installation sites that were shut down by the wheels, those wheels shut those nuclear testing sites down remotely. They didn't have to get out of the wheel and go and push a button or anything like that. They used the technology that they have from their training and their understanding, whereas they were able and are still able to shut things down remotely, from tuning in. This is what some of the scientists of this world refers to as telepathy and telekinesis and things of that sort. But it is a realistic ability that is innate within us to this day. We just don't know how to tap into that power as much as those who control the wheels are able to. But it is a realistic ability that has been proven to take place. And we see that taking place in the reports given by those who have sighted these planes over military installations. So it's a realistic reality now.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can I have one more question? Can I answer
Absolutely, darling. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Can you explain the significance of those of us who have had visions of the wheel and have gone on the wheel and our responsibility?
Wow. Now that, I don't think I could tell or explain that. Those who have been granted visions or experiences of sorts where they had visions or experiences on the wheel, that would be something that perhaps they would be able to explain, you know. I'm not there yet where I can tune in and tell you about the experiences of others. I would like that ability. Hopefully, if I keep striving, I might be able to do something like that. But
that's right.
I do believe that if one is granted that type of vision or experience, that it holds tremendous significance. I might not be able to tell what that significance is, but those who had those experiences, perhaps they could.
Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Would you like to ask one more, ma'am?
No, thank you. I'm fine. Assalamualaikum.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling in, beloved. Walaikum salam.
Thank you, little Sharita.
Thank you for supporting your mom. Praise a lot. Thank you. Salam alaikum, ma'am. Okay, I'm going to open up the line. Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to open the line for 561-360. Your line is open. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes. Yes, sir. We can hear you.
All praises due to Allah. Brother Rashad, it's your brother Jacoby from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Alhamdulillah. Walaikum, Brother Jacoby.
All praises due to Allah. I'm not going to tell what I read in the book because then I'll be spoiling spoiling something, and I'm going to give a hint. The story concerning Zimbabwe in the 48, but I'm not going to tell it. And the story involving the caller that called in and the baby planes landing on the Navy's Air Force base, and what he saw coming out of those baby planes, and what he said that they look like. I want to comment on the subject of the falling of baby planes, or so-called baby planes falling out of the sky. We know from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in history that they've tried to reduplicate the wheel. And many of these wheels that have fallen has been failed attempts by the U.S. government to reduplicate the wheel. So when you hear about these wheels or these plane that is crashing, it could be from failed attempts from the U.S. government.
Yes, that's right.
So I wanted to ask, dear brother, I've heard it spoken. I don't know how true it is. I've heard it spoken before. But do you know of the saying where it says that Master Farad Muhammad in the last days, how there would be different civilizations from our universe that would come to help aid in the destruction?
Well, from what I understand, if this is the same thing that you're talking about, I've heard the minister, and some of this he actually told me, and some I heard Brother Jabril talk about, how in the judgment, how Allah would literally use certain aspects of his creation to aid in the destruction. You know, we understand that there's new life on the wheel. And one of the things that was mentioned, and it sounds almost like a scene from a movie almost, is that Allah would use these creatures.
Teach on
creatures 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet, perhaps, with a human face, with wings. You know, it may have like the body of an insect or something like that, that would be used to terrorize, you know, the people during the destruction. Now, that's a scary sight. Now, we know that the technology on the wheel has the ability to produce new life, whether that new life is for good or bad, you know, or for the destruction, I should say. And you could just imagine if a creature like that was standing at your door, man, that would terrorize the heck out of somebody, boy.
Yes,
you know. But needless to say, it has been said that Allah would use some of His creation for the destruction. And I think we mentioned some of that in the book. Maybe just a little something about that.
Also, last question, sister, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Also, in your book, or do you have of any other instances? You know, in Florida, we have an Air Force base in Florida. I think it's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it speaks about in the Behold the Pale White Horse of how some of the baby planes would land at the Air Force bases and interact with the generals of the U.S. Army. Could you speak on that for a minute?
And may I say something really quick, brother? We only have like about 4 more minutes to close, but I want to ask you, in public, brother, can you please come back and do a part 2? Because the boards are lit up. We have a lot of callers that we're not going to be able to get to, sir. Would you do that, brother?
I believe we can make that happen. I believe we can make
wonderful.
that happen.
Praise Allah. Okay, continue on. Sorry, sir.
Yes. All right. And just to try not to, you know, that's a heavy question too, but there have been several reports that those from the wheels have had interactions with America's leaders, particularly America's military and intelligence leaders. Because the way of Allah is such that He gives everybody the opportunity to submit, including the enemy. He is a just God. He is a fair God. And we also understand that this enemy that we know is so arrogant and so wicked that despite the opportunity to do right and save herself with the power of God, many times they will steal, knowing that God has the power to destroy them. In their mind, they are so arrogant that they still think they can defeat God. And I believe that's what we have on our hands. And I tell you, listening to and taking heed to the voice of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is not just our salvation, but those in power. If they really want to save themselves, if they want to save America that they claim to love so much, the best and wisest thing that they or we could do is to take heed to the man of God, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.